figure out. I was gonna say we need to figure out if we wanted to do these in the um phone orientation or landscape orientation. But I think it's just better for landscape. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, I agree. Who is it? Who?
What are you searching up?
No, for the Instagram, it has to be the same title.
See, that's weird that it doesn't just automatically go live.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Oh, I see why. I see why. It says we have to update the channel and provide a new stream key. I'll take care of that after this. So if you want to do it the manual way, feel free for this one.
Yeah, it just was, but it's not working, which is fine.
Yeah.
We'll just go right into it. But all right, welcome back. Tried to get Instagram live going, but was not
Technical
successful.
difficulties to
Technical difficulties,
start the episode.
which is fine, which is fine. But I think we're on episode 16, digging in some very, very, very deep, interesting, and let's just say polarizing topics for today. Upmost first, and the most one of the most important and most tragic of all, that's starting with the Charlie Kirk assassination, and then
R.I.P.
yeah, RIP. And we're going to be looking into all of the facts and information. If you wonder why you haven't heard from us from when that assassination took place on September 10th, it's because we wanted to let all the information roll out first before we were able to come here and give you our perspectives and the facts on what the investigators are continuing to find, and what investigators are actually reporting to the public. And then we're going to move on to U.S. Israel relations and military actions. Then to the Trump administration domestic and economic policies, moving to immigration, labor, and political violence to round it all up. So to start, let's look at the assassination facts. So we all know, unfortunately, Charlie Kirk was assassinated on September 10th, 2025, while speaking at a public event in Utah, at the University of Utah. The shooting was captured in a graphic video that I'm sure everyone has seen, and authorities confirmed premeditation through digital evidence, including text messages and apparently a Discord post where the suspect appeared to confess hours before his arrest. And these texts have now been made public. And
They're such bullshit.
yeah, I'm interested. I mean, I've read them, and I think
I'm
actually
reading them right now because I read them earlier, but I remember reading them and I was like, isn't it so convenient that he confesses to everything exactly just the day of it happening and they get everything perfectly done? You know,
yeah,
a
it's
guy who's
very
smart, this
interesting.
guy's capable of getting a decoy to take the blame for him and get away from the FBI and such. But he also isn't thinks that deleting text is the good way, complete way of getting rid of them. You know what I mean? It's just also fishy.
Yeah, it's definitely also fishy, and there were also the FBI's investigation, which is being led by Kash Patel, who actually had a viscerating oversight committee hearing. God, that was god awful.
With
Um,
Cash Patel.
yeah, Kash Patel was god awful, but his investigation has widened to include potential accomplices, with the Utah governor Spencer Cox sharing details on the motive. And
Spencer Cox.
I've from the things that have come out from the motive, we're going to get to that as well. Um, but his arrangement is today, and he's going to be getting, I believe, the death penalty, um, for what for the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
No,
So
the thing that makes me laugh about this, it's sad seeing someone get murdered, and it is sad that now someone's without their father and everything, which is this is going to impact the kids the most, honestly, which is the saddest thing of all.
yeah,
But aside from all that, what I think is, back to what the investigation is saying and doing. I think it's funny how the governor Spencer Cox I love when someone's last name is Cox. It's like the only time you can appropriately say it in a conversation. The Spencer Cox was talking about how he was hoping that the person who did it wasn't like a purebred Utah person, but then he was like hoping it was like a foreigner or an outsider, someone from a different state at the very
Yeah.
least. And he was like, but it's one of us. It's one of us. And now he's been like, and then he started to say like, oh, we shouldn't try to politicize this. And now he's been going to home and back to Rome and back to Beijing and back, talking about how this guy had a transgender boyfriend and girlfriend. I'm
Yeah.
honestly not sure, but a transgender partner.
Yeah.
And
Partner.
like I remember like watching like some news news briefings, and the guy was like, "Yes, it was a man transitioning to a female who they were dating, and it was a very loving relationship." And I'm like, I feel like there's this. This is strange how much time they're spending on a fact that doesn't matter at all. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like if
There's a
somebody,
very
like if
lot of
they got,
focus on this
yeah, if like
front.
the after
Really.
they detain the guy who shot JFK, and they're like, he always hated rhubarb pie. He hated it so much. His wife never cooked rhubarb pie. I'd be like, what does that have to do with anything? You know what I mean? It's because JFK hated rhubarb. It's a horrible example, but you get the point what
Yeah,
I'm
I think
saying.
it's like a red
It
herring
doesn't
fact,
actually like they're
just to
trying
throw
to
it out
say
there.
it provides to the motive, like, oh yeah, this guy may have wanted to kill Charlie Kirk because of his partner being transgender, and it's just it really seems like that's the angle they're trying to argue here of all
Yeah, it seems
things.
like that's what they're trying to argue. And Governor Spencer Cox has claimed that Tyler Robinson, held leftist ideologies, as you were saying, based on the Discord messages, and
Radicalized within a year, they say.
even the messages that are written on the bullets. At first, individuals were reporting, transgender and leftist ideology, the catch this fascists, which everyone
With the
should know that
Helldivers code.
is actually, yeah, it's actually a hell divers what motto code, but would you
I
said it
wonder
was
what
a
the
code?
stratagem was that he put in.
So it's from a video game. So let's also not start that conversation of video games.
Did you say
You know,
RFK said this increase in violence could be linked to video games?
yeah, I
Boomers,
don't want to
man.
see that type of
Boomers.
talk, because that is not the case. Because yeah, no, I feel like he just did it as like, if let's just say he actually acted on his own with no other outside interest or theories, let's just say, then that to him is like a funny joke. Because in the text itself, I think it says, if he saw it come across the screen or something like that, he would fall out or like have a heart attack, or like like in like sort of like an excitement for seeing it, like in that nature.
Dude,
But
the thing
yeah,
is, they're like orchestrating this as a play. You know what I mean? I remember this was a while ago. A one of the top news agencies, I believe it was MSNBC. It was like a few years ago, more than half a decade ago, and they were interviewing like a supposed Mossad agent, and I was
oh
like,
yeah, I think I remember seeing
like
that.
identity was covered, all black, voice was distorted, but the guy was basically talking about how in order to like do their operations where they need to sway public opinion or get some things done where they need to influence people, they'll hold like grand over the top, plays for the people to be entertained by to sway their opinion. And it just kind of screams like that because this is where I'm going to start going down the theory hole, I should say. 3 hours after Kirk died, they blocked the Epstein files. And this is all
Yeah,
meanwhile, like all the Republican politicians who are toxically right on the internet. The thing is, like, I know a lot of people who are right leaning, and I know, like, for example, I'm Muslim. I know these people don't hate Muslims. But then you see, like, people like Nancy Mace, Lauren Boebert, Randy Fine, and all they're talking about how, like, Islam is like a deadly plague to the world. And then you see Bibi Netanyahu, who, mind you, Bibi Netanyahu was the first person to tweet about Charlie Kirk's death at
yeah,
the same time as President Trump, actually a few seconds before President Trump. And so when I think about that, it makes me laugh how there is clearly an agenda that's being pushed with all this. And even after that happened, Bibi Netanyahu has posted dozens of tweets regarding this, which is strange. And the thing that he has tried to drive home the most is saying that Islam and radical leftism go hand in hand, and they will lead to destruction of America. And I'm like, dude, first off, Islam and radical leftism do nowhere near go hand in hand. Radical Islam is far right. You know what I mean? You talk to those terrorist groups in the Middle East, and they will not tell you far left leaning things. They're not going to be talking about communism. They're going to be talking about complete autocratic control
No,
of
yeah.
the state. You know what I mean? Which is far right. And which, to be fair, the horseshoe theory communism is kind of like that, but it's also that's where you get into authoritarian governments, how different they are, but how similar they can be.
No, yeah, definitely.
I'm like,
Digging. Mhm.
go ahead,
No,
go
you're
ahead, go ahead.
I was saying, digging more in when it had first happened, we all saw, the tragic video.
Oh yeah,
We
man.
were
Oof.
playing Xbox, and you were going to go get food, and I opened my phone. And I was like, Jesus Christ! You're like, is everything all right? I was like, dude, Charlie Kirk just got shot right in the neck. And then that's when we both like were able to see that video and so forth. And then, as the shot happened, there was one individual who, cried out,
Oh
and
yeah.
authorities actually grabbed them. So this was George Zen. So the elderly man
The
from
theory this man just makes the theory so much more credible, in my opinion, that this is clearly something greater than just this kid being the decoy or the being the pinned on one.
No, yeah, like, and this is in court documents. So, George Zen, he's the elderly man that was first detained after the Charlie Kirk shooting, confessed to possessing child pornography when he was arrested by the FBI, and he's now been charged by the FBI for having those, despicable images on his phone. And he also admitted instinctively he acted as a distraction to give the real shooter a chance to escape. But investigators have not been able to find any credible connection between the shooter and Tyler Tyler Robinson. So it's interesting to see that you have an individual that lashed out so loudly once this happened, distracted everyone, and that was basically the second thing you saw on the news. This old man in handcuffs,
They thought he
down
was the
on his
shooter.
knees, and I think he was like, I think he was saying like, "Kill me, kill me, kill me," or like, "Shoot
He
me," or
was saying,
something like
"Shoot me,
that.
shoot me."
Yeah, when he was when they were like detaining him, picked him up, and like we're walking him out. So these are very small things that lead to individuals having this theory that it's a grander scheme going on behind what happened to Charlie Kirk. Like even now you have prominent conservative talk show hosts such as Nick Fuentes reporting that Kirk
Kuiper.
rejected, yeah, and Candace Owen, that Kirk rejected a $150 million offer from Netanyahu to actually buy Turning Point USA and turn it to a more pro-Israel stance,
Yeah.
including a re-education trip. Now think about that re-education trip.
Dude,
Like,
I'm convinced. I seriously mean this. I'm convinced there's some like magic behind that wall that like just does something to somebody's like spirit and mind that makes them
yeah,
more easily influenced by Israel and like that Zionist evil group.
no, yeah, we're gonna touch on that because that's another piece, as well. And Candace Owens detailed, threats at a Hamptons meeting with Bill Ackman and donors. And Bill Ackman is obviously denying this, but
Oh,
Kirk's
we know that.
tips included questioning Netanyahu's influence on Trump and opposing U.S. strikes on Iran. He started asking, the real questions. I think actually one of his last interviews with Ben Shapiro, he was saying, everyone's calling this a genocide. Like, can we be truthful about the facts? Like, we let the administration have it on Epstein. We let the administration have the own economy. It's like, is this like, actual, truth that, there is a genocide that's happening? That was his last formal interview before that assassination took place, unfortunately.
He actually had one with Megyn Kelly after that Ben Shapiro one.
Oh, yes, I
Then
remember that one too. Yep.
yeah, and that was like 2 days, I believe. 2 days. It was 2 days to 1 week before he got murdered. And on that interview, he was complaining about how he is not allowed to criticize Israel at all without being labeled an anti-Semite. He
Yeah.
said, "I can criticize Israel less as an American than Israelis and Israel can criticize Israel." He's like, "How does that make sense? How can I not criticize a foreign nation inside the land of the free speech?" And I've got this. We got this article here. This is from Press TV. Now, not a lot of major news stations are actually sharing this or talking about this at all, But before his death, because of his defiance of the Zionists, Kirk had become the target of a sustained private campaign of intimidation and free-floating fury by wealthy and powerful allies of Netanyahu, figures he described as Jewish leaders and stakeholders. And there's been multiple reports from people close to Kirk that he was fearing for his life. One of Kirk's friends recalled that the late youth leader was not only alienated by the hostile nature of their interactions, but frightened by the backlash of his defying Netanyahu. Just as Mikhail was shared that Netanyahu actually tried to purchase it, which think about that. A foreign government trying to purchase a political movement group in America. It's ridiculous. They control it. That's how they do these things. That's how they influence the American public and get us to continue to sign on for all this pro-Israel nonsense. During the past year, the Trump insider was told by contacts in the White House that the Secret Service had caught the Israeli regime. This is now related to Israel and how they treat the president of the United States and Boris Johnson. So it was caught that the Israeli regime tried to place electronic devices on emergency response vehicles on 2 separate occasions while Trump was president, and the Secret Service caught it. And while Gray Zone was unable to confirm the story of the Secret Service or the White House, such an incident would not have been unprecedented because, indeed, according to reporting Politico citing 3 former senior U.S. officials, a cell phone spying device was placed by Israeli agents near the White House and other sensitive locations around Washington towards the end of Trump's first term. And on top of that, former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson recounted a similar incident in his memoir, writing that his security team found a listening device in his bathroom soon after Netanyahu used his personal toilet. The reports that the Israeli leader ordered the assassination of Kirk is so strong that Netanyahu was compelled to explicitly deny that the Tel Aviv regime was behind the killing, which, he multiple times said, we haven't done this. It's anti-Semitism that you guys think we did this. Of course we haven't done this. Kirk was a strong friend of Israel. And then we start learning about how much Kirk was rejecting Israel, how much Kirk said no to Netanyahu, how much pressure was on Kirk by these Zionist Jewish supremacist donors like Bill Ackman and more. It really doesn't look good. And then 4 days before the assassination, frustration, this is the big one, frustration among pro-Israel commentators bubbled over in public during a Fox News interview in which the Israelis' premier influence in the United States, Ben Shapiro, launched a chilling attack on Kirk without naming him. Now, that's similar to Laura Loomer, another prominent Zionist figure in media, in the independent media realm, who is extremely pro-Israel, and also a week before Kirk's death said that he should not be considered a Republican because he is not loyal to Trump enough. And then she has since deleted that tweet, but this is just a lot of clear signs that the Zionist movement was not happy with Charlie Kirk. And the Turning Point USA was really propped up when in its beginning stages by Jewish donors, Zionist donors, who were the ones who were paying for this because they saw it as a way to keep American Republican and Israeli relations positive and high, which it was for a time. And then the guy who leads it starts to change his mentality because he starts to see what's going on, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden he's not there anymore. And the craziest thing about this is 2 things. One, Ben Shapiro immediately hosted his show the next day. Not the next day, a few days after. The first show of the Charlie Kirk show was hosted by Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
And the second thing,
they've basically taken it over now.
Basically, yep. Charlie Kirk dies. Charlie Kirk, the Christian leader of the Christian movement, dies. Ben Shapiro, the Jewish Zionist, steps in to take control of it.
Yep.
What does that mean? Why him? And then 2, so the story behind why Tyler Robinson was chosen to be as the suspect of the shooting was because the story is he told his father, and then his father told this priest in a confession, and then the priest told law enforcement, who then arrested Tyler Robinson. Tyler Robinson, since being arrested, has denied that he's done it, and which is completely against what the texts say, has denied that he's done it, and even if he already admitted to doing it, denies that he's done it. I hate to repeat that a third time, but he's also uncooperative with officials while he's locked up. So, and I think another important thing to note is that the FBI had a $200,000 reward out for the shooter immediately after the shooting was announced. And then the guy got turned in the next day, 2 days later. Bill Ackman, the same Zionist Jewish billionaire who was pressuring Kirk, at the closed door Hamptons meeting a week before he was killed that Candace has reported on and multiple others have reported on.
Yeah.
He gave a $1 million reward to the boy's father. What, dude? That's hush money.
Yeah. And I
That's
think
hush
they were
money.
saying that like they have, so they were saying, I think the legality behind it is like the way like the anonymous tips work with the money, if it obviously leads to the arrest of the individual, they do have to give them that money. But however, if they find out that the individual who received that money has any connection to the perpetrator, then that's also null and void as well. So obviously, if something comes out that he had some connection or somewhat helped his son, or there's somehow turn yourself in, I'll get the reward money, even though it's not something like that of that nature happens. The FBI has the right to take that money back. But yes, that is also something that has been talked about, as well as with Israel itself and how more entrenched they're getting, and how you could say
They're
from
getting
our
desperate.
theories dangerous they're getting. The highest levels of blackmail allegations were something that I have heard on, like, the Twitter sphere and so forth. And it's a former Israeli intelligence officer, Ari Ben Menashi. So he reiterated and this year that Netanyahu is blackmailing Trump using Epstein related videos, part of a Israeli intelligence operation to influence US policy. So this individual has been involved in past scandals like the Iran Contra, and claims Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell collected material on U.S. figures for Mossad. Mossad being the special agent, this intelligence agency for Israel. So, these assertions tie to the broader claims of, Israeli leverage that they've been trying to push on America, and even also ties to now what Muhammad was talking about with, uh, Ben Shapiro now taking over Turning Point, and now the whole face of Turning Point basically changing from pro
Completely.
Christian to now basically a pro Jewish Zionist platform. And then even from the Post, like, not only do you have that was like days, like probably like hours. Well, that was like days happened, like when that happened, Ben Shapiro taking over and so forth. But like hours after happening, that's when you have the policy shifts. You have that bill that was introduced by, should be ashamed by himself, Marco Rubio, that would I think it might be called the the State Department Reauthorization Act, or something of that nature. I was looking at it last night, actually. So there was a clause in there that provided definition for basically, it allowed the Secretary of State to revoke individuals' passports if they were able to look. I think it was material substance that led them to believe that individuals had ties to terrorist organizations. Now, there were a lot of outcries for that language, because that basically would mean, if, let's just say, you are supporting of Palestine or of Gaza or anything of that nature, whether it's through speech, donations, gatherings, or just vocal support for Palestine, and the administration sees that as a terrorist group, you could potentially have your passport revoked. But
Insane.
however, yeah,
Insane.
and completely insane right after this shooting, and then also now him going to the wall and so forth. And Trump is also inviting Netanyahu back again. I think it's going to be his fourth time in about 9 months, which is, I think, is pretty unprecedented for the visits to the White House. But yeah, this was a bill that was introduced. I forget the senator who it was introduced in the House, and then also within that bill, the House plans to ban Pentagon contracts for the BDS, and like any involvement in BDS, which is boycott, disinvestment, and sanctions movement. It's a Palestine-led global campaign that uses nonviolent pressures to influence Israeli policies towards Palestine, basically. So it's a pro Palestinian group. So they basically are banning any defense contracts going to those groups, as well was proposing to revoke passports from individuals that support terroristic groups. But individuals were able to point out that that's easily geared towards Israel, just given the heightened backlash that they have been getting. So these are things that were all these things spewed out days after, minutes, hours, days after, the Charlie Kirk assassination. And then you had, I think, the 250 state legislators visiting Israel for the 50 state One Israel project.
Oh
That
yeah,
is just an
crazy.
insane statement to me. That, and the flag was even more ridiculous. Like, then in
Yeah,
the background, I remember seeing it. But that just shows you how, like, Israel wants really just to be the United States of Israel, not even the United States of America anymore at this point.
and the thing
50
is,
states, one Israel. Like, that is insane. Completely
and
insane.
it is. It's completely insane. And that's the largest ever group of US legislators that have ever gone to Israel. They were state legislators specifically, and it was 250 total that numbered in that trip. And
250.
250. It's insane. And we've actually got an article relating to that as well. So state legislators in the U.S. play a crucial role in shaping policies that often touch on issues relating to Israel, from combating boycotts to and anti-Semitism to advancing U.S.-Israel relations. Like Mikhail was just discussing about the BDS rule laws, and about how they tried to actually implement the ability for the Secretary of State to revoke passports from U.S. citizens, even. It's clear what their goal is to literally make insulting Israel illegal through the means of
Yep.
anti-Semitism. And and I can see it. They're going to argue that's a national security issue, because of, if we've got people who are talking against Israel, it's because they're radical leftists. If they're radical leftists, then they're a national security threat, or they're terrorist Hamas supporters. The
Right.
delegation reflects the diversity of American society, ranging from representatives of major urban centers to lawmakers from rural agricultural regions, many of whom are not regularly exposed to Israel. Asked by the Post whether any lawmakers had boycotted the visit, Hayat confirmed that some declined to come for various reasons, saying, quote, "There were a few for political reasons, but the vast majority we approached responded enthusiastically and immediately said yes," unquote. And then saying again, quote, "This demonstrates the very broad support for Israel that exists across American society. At a time like this, seeing bipartisan support from all U.S. 50 states in a historic event unprecedented in historic Israel's history reminds us that in difficult moments, our true friends stand with us." So now that one politician, there was a politician that actually did choose not to go, and she was a Democratic House member from Ohio, I believe.
Yes.
Then when I actually we reached out to her on behind from behind the ballot on X. Hopefully, she will get back to us, and we'll love to sit down and get an interview with her.
Yeah, that
But
would be great.
she turned down the invite, saying that she was learning to see whether or not what she could learn from the trip, to see what how Israel does things. But then she said that she realized that she was the propaganda of the trip, and we can see that right now. Literally, Israel touting 250 legislators, the largest ever group in American history, to come to Israel. This is a sign of better things to come, of good things to come. And so if she went, it would have been 251. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah, exactly. Just to bump up their numbers. And that's, perfect, because we're going to segue right into that in our next section, dive deeper into this really 50 states, one Israel delegation. As Muhammad was saying, it's 250 state legislators organized by the foreign minister. They met senior officials, toured Gaza borders, and promoted investments while countering BDS. That's the movement that we were talking about earlier. So Netanyahu addressed
Promoting
them. Yeah.
investments, dude. What evil
What
fucking
what evil,
goblins.
terrible. Netanyahu addressed them, highlighting Israeli tech and U.S. phones, which a lot of people actually took as kind of like well, on the media sphere, took that as like kind of like a threat in a sense. Because what do you
I
mean?
would have.
I have a piece of Israel in my phone when when everyone knows the tale. everything, all phones usually come from China. So that's a little, worrying, in a sense.
And not to mention
Um,
that, but also because of that pager attack that
yeah,
happened
exactly.
just
Yep.
last year, where they were able to get their hands on the pagers that were going through. Do you remember the country? It was a North African country. I believe it was Lebanon. I
I think it
believe.
was Lebanon. Yeah.
Yeah. And where they just detonated hundreds. I think it was actually like 3,000 pagers across all of Lebanon, and it killed like dozens of people and injured hundreds. And they're
Yeah.
like, this has been a fantastic development of Israeli technology. And it's just, dude, these people take pride in their war crimes. The
Yeah.
thing is, I just want to go on like a quick 1 minute rant. And in the West, there's really not much exposure we have to the evils of humanity. And so a lot of people think that there really is just like two things. They like to think that if somebody is being brutally murdered, it's because they deserve it, because prevails. You know what I mean? So that's what a lot of Republicans that support Zionism are fooling themselves into. They think that what Israel's doing is just because the people on the other side are evil animals.
Yeah.
And most Israelis share that sentiment. 87% of Israelis said they don't feel bad at all about the famine. So when people really start to realize how dark and deep humanity's evil can go, I mean, these people quite literally torture people just for the fun of it. And it baffles me how it takes some people quite a while to see that. And Charlie Kirk was an example of somebody who was extremely influential in the area, started to see how bad it actually was, and was like, why are we supporting this? You know what I mean? Like,
No,
this
seriously.
isn't right. And so I think that a lot of people just are able to have that beautiful veil over their eyes of how good humanity can be. You know what I mean? Of the idea of good prevails over evil. If something's happening to those people, it's because they deserve it. And especially when you can demonize an entire group, just like the Muslims. You know what I mean? Like I said, in America, like if you 100 Muslim deaths isn't even equal to one Christian death. That's just a
Right.
fact. Because people don't view Muslims the same as Christians in the country for the most part. It's a sad tale, but it's true. I mean, we can even see it. We have multiple representatives in the House who tell Ilhan Omar, literally tweeting it publicly on Twitter, representatives of the House of Representatives of Congress, people elected to serve and represent us on the highest level, saying to Ilhan Omar, you don't deserve to live in this country. Get out. You're a filthy terrorist. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's
It's
just things
bad.
like that. Like, how is this? Do you guys not understand how evil this ideology is? And because the thing is, they think they're righteous for it. They think they're just. They think
Very
that
much so. They
I
do.
am allowed to do whatever evil I want to these people because I'm the better person, because they're the bad person. And you don't know how good you are. You don't know, I should say, you don't know how bad of a person you are. And I mean that to everybody. Like, we all have evil in us, we all have good in us. So to think that one group of people is entirely evil and another group of people is entirely good, and that gives them the right to do whatever they want, is quite literally ethnic supremacy. And it's a very, very dangerous slope that is pretty common. Just people
Yeah,
don't know
that's
too
what
much in
they're
the West.
trying to push, just that Israeli superiority and supremacy over, of regular Americans and even over elected officials. What's even worse about this event, the event included a serenading of Somewhere Over the Rainbow, symbolizing a sense of unity. I probably would have had to rip my ears off. But
Right? Like not listening to a Hawaiian sing the song and listen to like an Israeli guy. Oh my God.
right, yep. And then, Rubio went to the wall again, of course, during his visit
Had to
to
take off his
Jerusalem.
had to take off
Had
his
to take off,
cross.
yeah, had to take off
Him
his
and
cross,
him and Mike
but
Huckabee both have to take off their crosses to not offend the local Jewish population. So it's
right.
okay if hide the fact that you're Christian and disrespect Jesus Christ, so you don't disrespect the Israelis. Fucking
Yeah, it's
ridiculous.
insane. And then as that's all going on, of course, Israeli is going on a further offensive in Gaza. I believe when we last spoke, they started their on-ground assault, and now currently we can report that Israel has launched Operation Gideon's Chair the second, or Gideon's Chair two, on today actually, as an expansion of prior operations with IDF troops and tanks entering Gaza City after airstrikes destroyed over 30 buildings. Thousands of Palestinians fled amid a humanitarian crisis in in the nearly 2-year war. So the offensive framed as targeting Hamas began with two divisions pushing in, coinciding with Rubio's and Netanyahu's meeting. It's been a continuation from May and August with these operations, aiming, for a full occupation of Israel. And even in today with Yemen, Israel announced an evacuation order for the
Yeah.
Hodia, something like that.
Honestly, I can't confirm how it's pronounced.
Right, but it's
Yeah.
like Yemen's second
Houdia,
largest
something like
port.
that.
Yeah, it's Yemen's second largest port. So there were at least 12 airstrikes on Houthi military infrastructure, and the IDF can confirm that confirmed the strikes in response to Houthi missile and drone strikes on Israel. So this was kind of like a retaliation fire that they're saying. So making an escalation in the Red Sea conflict. So, this is a continuation of, Gaza's displacement of 90%. Israel's displacement of Gaza's population, around 90%, 2.1 million residents, straining U.S. allies in domestic support from what Israel is doing to these Palestinians. It's getting worse and worse, and this is only going to risk broader Middle East instability and potentially U.S. military entanglement and political divisions, realistically. And we're seeing those divisions as we've talked about, and we're seeing the U.S. military entanglements because I believe there. If I'm gonna count this as a future take that will probably happen. You're gonna see some regime change. I believe actions happen with the U.S. and Israel against Iran. I definitely think so. You're gonna
I mean,
see
that's
that.
what the first bombing was. It wasn't to stop nuclear bombs, it was to try to kill the leaders.
And now it's going to be full. I feel like now it's going to be full on force with them trying to displace Iran, remove Khomeini, and instill someone else. And Iran is a very strong country, so it's going to be interesting to see how that is played out. And I really hope it's something that's not played out because we know that regime change does nothing for the country, only makes everything worse within the area. And that's all that
That's good for
Israel
Israel.
wants. That's what they want. They want to destabilize the Middle East for their own benefit, to gain ground, to make their greater Israel manifest their sick manifest destiny, something that's a reality.
Yeah.
And they are pushing the buttons globally and in the Middle East, and it seems that the United States is willing to let this happen, even when it came to the attacks on Qatar, and who got word, of what first, the whole debacle in that, and then now also I believe that the U.S. and Qatar are now going to have a defense deal to buffer up their defenses after what happened between Israel bombing them. So it's interesting how this is all just played out, and how it's just Israel really getting the better hand almost every single time there's an incident that takes place, and further draws in America into these wars that we we hope we hoped would not be something that would be continued, but it is.
Yeah, and it's the thing is Israel has like almost diplomatic immunity.
Oh,
They
across the
nothing
board.
no, none of the UN condemnations do anything to them because they have US backing them. They can't get it. They're not part of the ICC, neither is US where they mainly go. So they're not going to be no none of their leaders are going to be arrested for the war crimes that they're rightly accused of. And it's going to be a point where Europe has to make that move. And now Israel and the U.S. were heavily relying on the UAE and Qatar to maintain their positive relations with Israel and U.S. Now Qatar is, for the most part, to say it the least, strained now, and
Yeah.
there's been rumors of Qatar working to buy more Chinese military weapons, but we'll have to wait to see more about that. But there has been updates on it, and that was that UAE, as we all know, has illegally been giving Trump money on the side in order to gain his favor. So there's been two ways that's been done about this, and we actually have an article about it as well, and that is talking about how they Trump's World Liberty Financial has received more than up to $2 billion from funds located in the United Arab Emirates. And this is the Liberty Fund. World Liberty Fund is a crypto fund that Trump and his Middle East convoy Steve Witkoff are a part of.
Yeah.
So then, just 2 weeks later, wrote the New York Times. The New York Times. The White House was agreed to allow the UAE access to hundreds of thousands of the world's most advanced and scarce computer chips, a crucial tool in the high-stakes race to dominate AI, despite national security concerns about these chips being shared with China.
Yep.
Times,
Yep.
which interviewed more than 75 people in its investigation of the deal, did not present direct evidence that the two deals were explicitly linked, and the White House denied any connection between the massive investment in the Trump's failing crypto firm and the decision to grant UAE access to the chips. Now, other political observers were stunned by the report, saying that if this is true, it is the largest public corruption scandal in the history of the United States, and it's not even close.
Yeah.
Coming from the Ryan Cunnings, the chief of staff at the Stanford Institute for Economic Policy Research. Now, it goes on later to detail that not only that, but the UAE also gave a $500 million jet to Trump when he visited UAE, and I'm sure you all remember that. And it's
I
been
also remember that. Didn't he also remove the ruling for um, airlines to reimburse individuals for bad flights or things of that nature? I think he repealed that after he got that jet. So you get bad flights, he gets his jet. People, that's how it works out, unfortunately.
yeah, and wait. They so and to further add from that, there has been clear work by UAE to make Trump directly richer as an individual, so they can get benefits. And Trump's net worth has more than doubled since he's become president.
Oh,
This
more,
time,
more, more than
it's ridiculous. No, it's ridiculous. It's much quicker than what it was the first time he was president. And I think what we're likely going to see is the bit of a coward's approach by the Muslim countries, because Saudi Arabia also has a really good relationship with the United States and doesn't want to spoil it. But I think that what'll happen is that Israel will actually try to push for the Greater Israel Project while Trump's still in president. I think they likely will clean out the Gaza Strip, and the Europe will then finally have that be like the deciding figure, like the shame on them, because the Europeans don't do shit until they feel shame, and that's
yeah,
just I can tell you that from experience. They didn't do anything in Bosnia until they were ashamed. They didn't do anything in Kosovo until they were ashamed. They didn't do anything in anywhere. And the only reason why they're doing things in Ukraine is because it's against big bad Russia. If it wasn't big bad Russia, they wouldn't care at all. You know
yeah,
what I
probably
mean?
not. No,
And
not at all.
so Europe will hit a point where they feel finally great shame enough about it to be like, okay, we were wrong. Never again, never again. You know, you know what I mean? Never
Yeah,
again. You know, and as sad and ironic as that is to say, them. But and I think at that point, Europe will branch off from the United States' input with Israel, because we were already seeing United States push it, Europe away massively. We're seeing
yeah,
United States push away every partner except for Israel, and this is going to do nothing but weaken the United States globally. And a further thing that I want to add is that the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange and the Israeli economy has been having a hard time lately. They and the reason why is because, well, the BDS and more are having quite the effect on the Israeli economy. Diamonds were about 20% of the Israeli economy, and they would get blood diamonds from Africa, and then they would cut them in Israel and then sell them. And China, with their lab grown diamond industry and the lab grown diamonds spreading across the world itself, have massively hurt diamond prices. Because the
but
thing
yeah.
is, diamonds aren't that rare. They're just hoarded by the beers. Which guess I want to check who owns the beers. I actually don't know who owns the beers. I have a gut feeling though. Who does?
Then, as he's looking that up, we're gonna go into our next section, looking at Trump's domestic policies and also economic policies, which is a very good tie-in
Wait,
here.
yeah, and I
Did you
wanna
find it? Yep.
I wanna end this with wait. They have a parent company. Who owns the parent company? By the Diversified Mining Company. Anglo American PLC. Okay, who owns Anglo American PLC?
Always got to dig deeper. There's always someone who owns someone.
Duncan Wamblad is the current CEO.
Okay.
Duncan Wamblad, Wikipedia. South African apartheid businessman. White dude from South Africa. Makes
Makes
sense.
sense. Makes
Makes
sense. Makes
sense.
sense. Makes sense.
You
Makes
know,
sense.
they the Anglo America PLC was initially founded by a Jewish German emigre, Ernest Oppenheimer. And then it was bought out. And then let me see. 2 years later, Oppenheimer, at the end of his career, Harry Oppenheimer retired and appointed the chairmanship to Julian Ogleve Thompson. Julian Ogleve Thompson was South African apartheid. He was the one who controlled it until recent history. In 2023, he ended it. And it looks like it's because he died at age 89. He's a CEO who was chairman until he died. And now it looks like his Duncan Wallblad, who I am having a hard time finding information on, aside from the fact that he's South African apartheid,
Well, there you go.
which, as we know, does have good relations with Israel, which
Yeah.
would make sense why they were able to get such a good connection with the diamond industry to fuel their economy.
No, yeah,
Damn.
definitely. That makes sense. That
Damn.
does.
So yeah, I just want to end this before we go into the next topic to like officially cease it. I do think that the pressure is on for Israel massively, which is why they're getting so desperate. And I do think that we're going to get to a point where Europe abandons their cause for the most part, except for the Germans and possibly the Italians, because the Germans are weak. But I do think we'll start to see a lot of power change and a lot of global world order change this decade.
No, I mean, I definitely hope so. I would like to see a new prime minister instead of Netanyahu down the line, like before, I'm not here anymore on this earth because he's been Netanyahu I mean, he's been the prime minister ever since I can remember. So definitely
Yeah,
having new
literally.
leadership in our states and even abroad in other countries is definitely something that's good for the overall dynamics of the world and and geopolitics as well. Moving to a more domestic and economic outlook on what's been going on, starting domestically. Something that I find just troubling in the sense since he came after the Smithsonian's a few weeks ago after we recorded. So under Trump's March 2025 executive order restoring truth and sanity to American history, the NPS is purging corrosive ideology from sites. This includes removing the scourged back, that's the name of the photo. So
Yeah,
it's
the
a photo
photo.
of the enslaved individual man Peter, with I'm pretty sure a lot of our viewers know that painting. I mean, know that picture. It's the picture of the individual whose head's turned, looking at his back, and he has the multiple whip marks on his back. It's a very moving photo, and lets you understand the horrors that African Americans went through and that slaves went through during that time. And so affected sites are Harp's Ferry, the presidential house site, which has Washington's enslaved people. Broader reviews, we're going to target content on racism, sexism, indigenous persecution, and gay rights exhibits, for a more balanced context, is what the Trump administration is trying to say, and basically stating that Smithsonians are now going woke. And I would argue that this is actually the complete opposite, because those things remind us of the past, that where we came from and how actually bad it was. It's not
Yeah.
good to not remember those things. Like, that's why we have the Holocaust Museum. Like, that I would not see that in the same light as Donald Trump is seeing the
Imagine if
African
you said this
American.
about the
Right,
Holocaust.
imagine. Exactly, imagine if he was saying, like, yeah, we talk about it way too much, when slavery is is a topic that is often talked about, but the impacts of it and what actually, like, the horrificness of it is always diluted, basically. And then I think everyone should go to the African American Museum, the big huge one in Washington, and actually get to go through both levels of what they offer, because you do get that full experience. It's really a 2 day thing. But I think saying that it's a corrosive ideology and saying that Smithsonians are going woke is completely unfair. It's them telling the truth of what is actually going on, or what has actually happened in our past, that makes America America and makes us stronger as well. I think if we hide from those things, then we only get worse as a country, because we're not learning from our mistakes that we've already made. Um, and I mean, I can go on, but this is something that I am going to continue to watch, and we will be continuing to report as well. And then moving on to the budget, which is less than 15 days, people.
Yeah, no,
September 30th is knocking at the door. It's
it'll be
coming.
interesting to see.
It's
They,
coming. And they
I,
have everything. So if they are saying it's Democrats' faults, don't don't eat that up too well, because they have the presidency, they have the House, and they have the Senate. So they control the purse, the power, and the signage of this reconciliation budget that they will try to say Democrats are somehow derailing to some degree, even though Fox is reporting that Trump isn't even, he's not even going to bother with having Democrats in the conversation, which, by as a, I would say by all means, realistically, go ahead and run your reconciliation bill just as horrible as you guys did with the big, beautiful bill, and just see how much, just see how far that gets you realistically.
I mean, I think they're digging themselves in their ditch. I
You
think
really
that
are.
Trump has a plan to divide the country so he can maintain a cult of personality base. You know what I mean? It's just like a classic. I don't think he's going to try to maintain his presidency after this election, after this term.
I would
But
not.
I do think that two things that he does want to certain. Did you say you think he will try?
I said I hope not,
Yeah, I hope not. I don't think he will. I don't even think he has the energy in him
unless we're
anymore.
in war.
They like prop him out there on like a wheelchair, man.
Unless he's in war. I mean, he's jokingly stated that. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
I think the Republicans would not most, but a good amount of Republicans would actually be furious about
I
that
think
if we
I
got
hopefully
involved in a war.
I think they would get backbones in and actually stand up to what.
Yeah,
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 I mean, we would hope so, right?
I hope so. Yeah, but
We would hope so,
yeah,
right?
but then we're seeing this all the stuff with Epstein. Like I don't know.
Yep.
They so then I do think that Trump's plan with this all is to make the Democrats seem like such the bad guys, so that even when they create this bad policy that's catered massively to the rich, they can still say like, listen, those guys are even worse than we are. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like a game of who's worse,
Right.
like the
Yeah.
world's worst.
Realistically.
And Trump's just trying to be the world's second worst politician, while the Democrats are the world's worst politician. So it's
Yeah.
like, even if you don't like me, look how worse those people are. You know what I mean? They believe they're violent. They're delusional. You
Yeah.
know
I
what I
can't wait
mean?
to get into that section, because I was just on Twitter, and I saw it before I left work, but I wanted to make sure it was true. But I'm not going to say it until we get to that section on the political violence that's it's been exasperating and exhausting through the Twitter sphere, and
Yeah, and
honestly, even
we'll get back to the economy
in
now.
certain groups. Yeah, we'll get back to the economy, and TikTok is being saved. How about that?
Yeah, because of its being, I would love to see what's going to be done with it. They
Right. So, I mean, the buyer group led by Oracle, with Chairman Larry Ellison and Silver Lake will operate under the United States through agreement. The agreement, needing congressional approval, follows a 2024 divestiture law, and aligns with Oracle's cloud rule, expected to close within 30 to 45 days. So this is, I'm glad to see, TikTok running up again. China is out of it. We have a buyer in the United States. It's lovely. You guys will be seeing behind the ballot on TikTok once it's moved officially to USA hands. We
we'd
will
probably
be
get
on there.
banned for saying Israel's evil.
Yeah.
Honestly,
So no, yeah, we definitely would.
they're
That's
so
I
pro Zionist on that app now.
right. No, without a doubt. Like, I was worried he was just going to keep, punting this for 90 days. I mean 30-day approval, 30 days. We'll just keep getting after it, trying to make a deal. So I am glad that this is actually going to be done, because I know that a lot of small business creators, small businesses, and content creators, and just myself, that just goes on there just to kill time, and do enjoy the app. So that's a good win right there. And then rolling off of that, the U.S. launched a $5 billion fund with Orion Resource Partners via the International Development Finance Corp to invest in domestic mining. So, countering China's 95% refining dominance, which is 60 to 70% per world's production. So this is following the $439 million investment from 2020 to 2024 and legislation to build supply chains and tariffs and weaponization concerns for those rare minerals. And I think there hasn't been too much that's been said from that Ukrainian rare mineral deal, because I don't believe
I don't think there
this.
actually was anything
Yeah, I
about
was
that.
gonna say,
I
I don't
think it
think
was
this
just
has anything to do with that whatsoever, because I know that was mentioned. So we will also be spinning back on a lot of those deals that we reported on, that the Trump administration put out, to make sure where they stand at as well, because that's important for us to know, that not only is he's touting these things, they're making sure he's touting them and they're sticking to the wall, not just like a pigeon that didn't see the window and smacks it and just falls to the ground. And then moving on to some more trade shifts, really looking at the impact that's going on with farmers. So, looking at the soybean trade shift, so China booked bought, zero U.S. soybeans from throughout 2025 so far. So that's 12 to 13 million tons from last year. So they have from zero, mind you, that from complete nothing this year to 12, 13 million tons that they were buying last year. So it's
and I want
due.
to
No, go
I,
ahead.
I want to ask something fascinating about this too. So China's been getting soybeans from Argentina as like one of the other sources of soybeans. While since they've been not buying from the United States,
Yeah.
they just warned Argentina about buying soybeans from the U.S. and then selling them to China. They're like, if these aren't Argentinian soybeans, we're going to stop doing business with you. So they're very, very against the idea of buying American agricultural products if they don't have to.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And this miss in billions share, the miss that's going to happen in billions of sales from China not buying up the soybeans is threatening Midwest farmers and frightening jobs, from rails to trucking to ports. U.S. exports to China fell to 12.8 billion in 2024 and 2025, and they're only expecting even more further declines. Like, I mean, speaking about TikTok earlier, like I've gone and I've seen videos of farmers talking about how it's getting more stressful, how they may actually have to close up their generational farms just from the worker shortage, from China not buying soybeans, and also from the tariffs as well. And they are the farm industry itself is very heavily subsidized by the government,
Heavily.
from when things of this nature happen on a more natural level. Like if crops naturally are producing things of that nature, that's when you have the government able to step in and subsidize farms and keep them growing, because agriculture is a very key part of the United States DNA, especially as myself being from the great state of New Jersey, the Garden State. It's extremely important, that level of agriculture. So I am hoping that things do shift for farmers. Because I know when the immigration rate started, he said we're going into Home Depots, we're going into the farms, and they ultimately stopped going into the farms and so forth. So I do hope the farmers are able to recoup from this, because they, as I said, they are a key and vital part to the American culture and to the American spirit as well.
I mean, I agree with that. I two things though that don't have me optimistic about it is that one, this is a very large amount that China is choosing not to buy from us, so it means the government's going to put in more of a bailout for the farmers, which
Yep,
means they're going to have to
huge
spend more
bailout's going to be coming.
money,
And the
which
fall
means
is December's coming, so it's only going to be even more depth for these crops. So this is
yeah.
yeah, it's only going to get worse.
And the thing, and I do think that with how much the government is going to be about cuts, I would be surprised if farmers are what's the word I'm looking for? I should just say farming bailouts are subsidies. There we go. Are on that priority list. Now, I wouldn't be surprised to see them pass it because, of course, a lot of these Republicans have farmer constituents, and especially this that cultural impact of like this guy's abandoning the farmers. You know what I mean? Was he really a Republican? Things like that.
Right.
But the second thing that I want to add is that they're really down on labor. A lot of the immigrants leaving
Yeah.
and being kicked out and then self leaving and not coming in has done a devastating amount of damage to the numbers. So I really do to the labor numbers. So I'm increasingly believing this, and I'm excited to see how the tax period of to the next year goes. But I really believe that when 2026 rolls around and people start filing their taxes and they see, they see they're still getting paying money on overtime. They see they're still paying money on taxes. They see they're still paying money on everything, Social Security. They see they're not getting the subsidies that they thought they were going to be getting, even when they because they're not shipping out the product. They're going to see they're making a lot less money than they were before, and or not even that, not the money they were promised as well.
Yep.
They so I it's not a good look for the Trump economy, and especially because the Steve Bissent, I believe. They no, not Bissent. They I'm blanking on not Wickoff either. I keep getting Trump's cabinet members mixed up in my head. They the guy who he has for the economy,
Lutnick. Lutnick.
Ludwig,
Lutnick.
Letton,
Lutnick. I think
Lutnick.
it's with a T. Lutnit. It's
Yeah,
weird. It's a weird ass name. But
they Lutnick said that the economy won't be good and it won't show Trump's potential until fourth quarter of this year or first quarter of next year.
wait,
And
of
I'm just like,
course.
dude, like I wonder if this will actually like convince their supporters that if they keep saying, "Oh, if you just keep waiting, things will get better," and if things keep getting worse, if those supporters will still actually hold out faith, because as we see right now, Trump's approval on the economy is only at a 39%. He won because people thought he'd be better with the economy. Now, majority of Americans think he's doing a bad job with it. That's going to cost the Republicans the race,
Oh yeah, it is.
100%.
And like we reported that the shift was just starting to happen. That Democrats, that Republicans were now blaming. Republicans were now blaming the Trump administration and his policies for the rises of inflation. And like even you have earlier today, you had Trump declining GDP, and there's a video from, I think we have that video for. I'm not. Are we going to be able to play it?
I
If
don't
not,
think the audio will work. Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah, we're gonna get that down next. But so it was so in this video, and I watched it, I was like, "Are you serious right now?" Like, so it's a Fox News broadcast where Donald Trump discusses his economic performance. Basically, he mistakenly attributes negative economic indicators to President Biden, despite the data being from his own administration's timeline, specifically mentioning quarterly numbers from January, which align with his presidency's end in early 2021. So this misstatement is significant because it contradicts the economic data from reputable sources like various factcheck.org, and other fact-checking entities that are bipartisan in nature and in operation. So they reported a GDP decline of 2.2% in 2020 under Trump, and CNBC, which noted a recent downfall with revisions, but we last talked that was a combination of the deportations as well as the propped up jobs report from the Biden administration. So with those downward trends and further highlighting the economic challenges during his tenure, and as well as what he is going through now. So, he was stating that, those are all Biden's numbers. Those are Biden's numbers, but they're, from the months that he is in office.
Yeah.
And we have said that, as I was saying in my discussion of this, we did go back and we did say that part of the revisions were from the propping up of Biden's economy. I mean, his jobs numbers, as well as from the deportations of workers and the shifts of tariffs leading to the layoffs of workers as well. So combining those two premises together, that's how you have such dismal, dismal, dismal jobs reports and economic numbers. Though you have individuals that are starting to think that he's doing a little bit better on the economy and his approval numbers, even though it's kind of almost, I would say, a 50, it's starting to get a 50-50 split, even though before it was more so he's not doing good at all. So it's going to be interesting to see how it's laid out down by a year from now,
Yeah.
honestly, when it's the midterms.
Yeah, no, and it's not going to look good. I am excited to see the effects of it on the political outlook of the country. I am not excited to see the economic damage it does to the people of the country.
Yeah, that's
Even
going to be the bite.
right now, 10% of the top 10% of earners account for nearly 50% of the consumer spending in this country. So there's the Paletbos principle, where
Placebo.
20%. What'd you say?
Placebo.
No, it's something different.
Okay.
It's the 80-20 rule. It's
Okay, I got you.
where 20% of any given general population accounts for 80% of something within. And this is a very good example. 10% accounts for 50, or kind of accounts for a little bit more than, like 51% of personal consumer spending, which is in a historic all-time high. So they 20% does account for around 80, just following that trend. I'd have to see if how the exact percentage is probably like 20, is like 20, the top 20% account for like 77%, something along the lines of that. But yeah, I saw a report earlier and read about 10% accounting for 52% of consumer spending, which is insane. You know what I mean? Only 1/10 of this country is responsible for more than half of the purchases for consumer level items.
Yeah.
And I just think this is just a sign about how wealth is really, really getting disparaged in this country. And the thing is, Republicans are the ones that do that the most. Like the Democrats get rich off of stability. You know what I mean? They like having
Right.
trade deals and global agreements in place so they know where they can park their money and not have to worry about it. Republicans love making their money off of opportunity by dissolving institutions. Now, I mean, we see
Yeah.
that a lot right now. We saw Trump wanting to get rid of the DOE. That's going to open up opportunity for private donors
Education. Yep.
and people just come in and be like, hey, I mean, I've got $10 million with your name on it, President Trump. Why don't you put my company up for this education role that's just now opened?
Yep.
And President Trump's like, oh, yes, yes, yes. That sounds like a great idea. Thank you for this solid gold brick, Tim Cook. I will give Apple that exemption from tariffs. Thank you, Mark Zuckerberg, for saying $500 billion in this press conference. I will also give you a tariff free on the tariffs.
Exemption.
That
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really, the thing is, like, they love getting that opportunity and benefiting from it financially while everyone else suffers from it. They don't care that everyone else suffers from it. They care that they're benefiting from it. It is a maniacal, twisted worldscape view, but it's the truth. You know what I mean? And I mean, we even see it with how the economy has flourished under Democrats versus Republicans. The last three recessions have all happened under Republicans. The
And
last very big
every Democrat has gotten them out of it. Every single one.
the last
Every
big
single one.
booms have all been Democrats. And even just ignoring like the COVID fiasco, and that still includes the dot-com bubble, Bush, recession, later Bush, the recovery from the recession, Obama, recovery from dot-com bubble, Clinton. Clinton even balanced the budget, while dealing with the effects of the dot-com bubble.
Trump wish he could do that, honestly.
Yeah, while dealing with the and it's just I think that, and I'm optimistic that this economy will sway people to vote the different way, away from
Oh
Trump
yeah,
and his Republicans
I
in
think so too.
2026 and 28.
You're definitely going to see it more and more. And I'm going to go into our next and last section, looking at immigration, labor, and political violence. Like as you were saying, when individuals like fearing the braces of this economy and these policies, and as we were just talking about, the farmers like digging more into those numbers. So in deep red Pennsylvania, Toga County, farmers face dire shortages with the U.S. Agricultural workforce down 7%. That's a 155,000 jobs. Like, just think about that. And
Yeah,
immigrant labor by 750,000 thousand jobs. Like,
that's a
just
lot.
that mass alone leaving the workforce in just about almost less than a 1 year time span.
Yeah,
That is
hell, even
insane.
half a year time
Wait, half a
frame.
year? Yeah, even that. Like, a three-time Trump voter said, "We need people to do the jobs Americans are too spoiled to do." So, raids left crops rotting, up to 70% worker absence. So, there's a proposed bill to add reform to the H-2A waivers and wages, which is in Pennsylvania. So we can definitely look into that bill once we have our next episode. But, Trump has indicated no support for farmers post raid support or anything of that nature.
I
So,
don't expect it, honestly. I can see him arguing the angle of like, oh well, why are you hiring illegals? Like, buddy, I
right,
wasn't hiring illegals. Everyone
exactly.
just left. You got rid of them either or they left.
And it's like we're diluting all of the workforce areas that are very key and important, but at the same time, the administration is looking to hire 10,000. Oh, there we go. Got a little cat on the screen.
Yeah,
Um,
that she was trying to bother me, so I had to put her on the mic.
No, that's funny. But the Trump administration is looking to hire 10,000 officers for deportation. So the level of benefits that they get are insane. And I understand they have a very important job in guarding our border. I have had a friend graduate. We had a friend graduated from college that was a border patrol agent.
Who was it? I mean, you can say the
Um,
lot. You can just say like their initials.
Barley. It was yeah,
Oh
Barley.
yeah, I
Yeah, he
didn't know
was a
Barley much.
he was a uh border patrol agent. But so what they're offering is a $50,000 signing bonus, 60,000 student loan repayment, and 25% premium pay, funded by $46.6 billion. So no degree required. Over
No,
100,000 applicants have been received by August 2025. So that's the amount of people that have, put in applications for only the 10,000 officers that they are going to fill positions for. And this also includes retired agents as well. So the criticism I'm giving here is, I understand that we're able to give this level of package to, individuals that are protecting our borders, but why can't we give the same level of consideration to our, teachers and so forth, individuals that are changing and molding the minds of our young generation? You see how conservative now they talk about how individuals are getting indoctrinated in classes and so forth. Why not bring the money towards there in that sense, instead of just putting it towards, the border, where we see that there is a mass problem. There's a massive problem in our school system, realistically, that leads to, the, like, okay, you can save the individual, like the past shooters that we've had. Realistically, like, if you have better schools, you may not have those outcomes. In a sense, you may have, not less mental health issues when it comes to students. You may have individuals who aren't, depressed or have high mental health registrants and things of that nature. Like, it's things that, if you fortify education the right way, it can help benefit across the board, outside of just, putting brickloads of money towards the border, which is also important. But I think our teachers of America also need to be given the same level of satisfaction, because their jobs are just as, if not just as important, in my view, the way I look at it.
And what I will add as well is that Border Patrol is separate from ICE. I uh, ICE was founded as when after 9/11. The Border Patrol was founded back in 1924. They so it's I don't I feel I understand why ICE is around, but it's largely just, in my opinion, being used to get rid of undesirables, even if they are here legally. And the reason why I say that is because right now the people being deported by them, less than 20% are illegal. You know what I mean? We're seeing
Yeah,
ICE revoke visas from people who criticize Israel. You know what I mean? The State Department, you know, that we can see these people. The South Korean factory, very good
Oh yeah,
example
very
of what
good.
I
Oh, I
mean.
forgot about
Very good
that. I
example.
forgot about, and they even got Koreans in South Korea was I think upset because they got engineers like
Very upset because they were
that,
like,
and
dude,
because
so
yeah,
for those who don't know about the South Korea factory situation,
it was a
what state
Hyundai.
was it? It was in the South. I'm forgetting the
Oh,
state. Here, let
I
me
was
just.
I knew it was a Hyundai.
Yeah, it
I
was a
see that
Honda.
car there. Hyundai, Mitsubishi. I was watching
Dude,
Scary Movie the other day, so that's why that funny little thing is in my head. If you ever watched that movie before,
Hyundai, scary movie.
hmm
Yeah, no, that stuff is so funny. Damn. All right. So here, what state was it in? Georgia. That's what I thought. So in Georgia, there was a factory being set up for I believe it was a Hyundai factory, but actually no, it was a semiconductor factory. So let me just make sure I'm getting the details right before I share with anybody. Damn, South Korea probes rights violations in U.S. factory. Yeah, yeah, yeah. South Korean workers detained in U.S. raid arrive home. Yep, a Hyundai plane. That's what it was. So 300 plus South Korean workers were granted legal visas to come over to America for a few months in order to help set up the machines for the car factory in Georgia and to then help teach people how to use the machines and fix them in said car factory in Georgia. This one random woman who this is the funniest thing to me at all, and I
Oh yeah,
think
yeah, yeah, yeah.
this perfectly encapsulates the MAGA movement. This one random woman calls ICE saying she sees a bunch of Latino like figures working at a factory. She said they were Latino like. The woman couldn't even
Latino,
tell the difference
like,
between Latino and Asian. Damn, I doubt she cared. Damn, the fun little detail about this woman, she admitted this online after this all came out because she got a lot of attention from this all correctly because she just cost her county thousands of jobs, probably or hundreds of jobs, but definitely millions of
yeah,
dollars.
millions of dollars. Yeah,
Millions. They
millions.
she said that yes, I'm not a perfect person. I've been divorced 3 times. And I'm like, why the hell divorced 3 times? Like you were the like, if someone tells me they're divorced 3 times, I'm thinking I should not take this person's advice for anything. I should never
Pretty
listen to
much.
this person. I'm like, dude, I understand once, maybe twice, but 3 times. But back to the point is that they came in, detained these workers, didn't give them any kind of, any work. They said they didn't give them any kind of hospitality, and even though these people were here legally, have their documents here. I said, well, we're gonna take you in and we're going to see about that. So ICE took them in and held them for multiple days, held them in custody, and then they just said, "All right, well, you guys got to go home. You guys got to go back to South Korea." So these people came legally to help set up the factory in Georgia, and then to teach people how to use the machines. They were arrested illegally before they could do all that, detained, taken away, then deported out of the country despite being here legally, despite being here in order to help the US economy. So the South Korean government then said, quite correctly, we do not understand the point of this. We
Right.
created a trade deal, and this was a specific part of the trade deal. This has changed our opinion regarding to working with the United States, and we will have to deliberate to see where we go further with this. And right now, they are trying to sue them. I don't know if it's the government as a whole or the individual or the workers as individuals, but I know the government has supporting them in their endeavor. South Korea itself
Yeah, they're
probes rights
investigating.
violations
Yeah,
in the U.S.
yeah.
factory raid. So the government itself is looking into human right violations,
Which they have
and
every right to. I mean,
every right to. I mean, the thing
like,
is, these people were said to be held for multiple days, and they pissed on themselves. They weren't able to go to the bathroom. You know what I mean? Like, what's the point of this? This is unnecessary cruelty, and that's kind
unnecessary.
of what encapsulates this MAGA movement. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
that's why a lot of people have a hard time taking it seriously because you can't be pro-life and then be pro also locking people up without proper due process, and then
Yeah.
deporting them and holding them in cruel, inhumane conditions. You can't say you're pro-life and then say, oh, but we should cut money from rural hospitals. You can't be pro-life and
Yeah.
then say,
No.
oh, we should be supporting Israel unequivocally and then bombing the Palestinians. You can't.
No,
So
you
you know
really
what
can't.
and it's just like I see stuff like this and it bothers me so much. And it really is like, well, what's the point? Where we like this is just ruining our status as a country. South Korea is a major partner in the East. So what are we just going to bosh this because we were listening to this, because we're full blown, our government is fully blown into the idea
Right.
of what is it, Christian nationalism? And
Yeah.
the thing
Something of
is,
that nature.
it's really that's really what it is. They're like, oh, this guy's not white. You know what I mean? She said they're Latinos. They were Asian. All she cared was that they weren't what she liked. You know, the bread and butter, the kind of look. And the thing is, they were here legally. A lot of there's just so many things that I can't figure out how to say based off of how annoyed and disappointed I am with the direction this country is going because of the president and because of the people that he enables. People like Laura Loomer, who can apparently contact Marco Rubio and Pam Bondi and demand certain things happen within the State Department or the DOJ. The fact that at Florida State University, there's a woman who loses her position in the school and gets sued by the DOJ or assisted by the DOJ because she pushed a Zionist phone down who's wearing an IDF shirt. Why is the DOJ getting involved with something that trivial, but at the same time we're letting so much crime go on in the rest of the country? And the thing is, this Ukrainian woman story, the one that the right is currently going crazy for, fun
Mhm.
fact, I couldn't believe this when I first realized it. That story got popular last week. That murder happened a month and a half ago. A month and a half ago. And then they just decided to bring it into the spotlight 1 month later. They weren't mad that it happened. They wanted to use it for their advantage. I mean, I understand that's the media mainly, and the people who control the media, the Zionists, and the people who benefit with them. But it's ridiculous how, don't get me wrong, I have this thing complaining about the left too. But in my opinion, the left does this out of sheer idiocy. The right does it out of
Yeah.
malicious intent. The right, a lot of people on the right know that they're spewing hatred against, minority groups. You know what I mean? You see people like, literally like in-house Randy Fine, and Nancy Mace, and people more like that who literally are politicians who openly spew hatred and death towards people who they don't like. And then you get people on the left who are like saying, like, who are very open minded and think, oh, we should accept everyone no matter what. And then that enables them to accept things that they shouldn't accept.
Checks up.
The,
Yeah. Without
the
a doubt.
left does it out of idiocy and empathy. The right does it out of malicious intent. And I think that's the key difference. And I think that's a big reason why I'm a registered Democrat. I agree with a lot more actual conservative policies, but I can't vote for the conservatives, the GOP, I should say. I have a lot of conservative friends. They're good people. That's what I mean. Like, most conservatives I know are normal, good people. The GOP and the people that run with the GOP are, uh, frankly, not good people for the most part. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? That's just the easiest way to say it.
No, yeah, I agree, and I think that also that like the level of violence in this country is rising to levels that is unseen, as well as the finger pointing to the level of violence is something that's unseen. And we are gonna take a moment here to just talk about the level of political violence that has spread throughout this country, that has now been shocked and awe by all of us, and that has also now been in the waves and regards and the prominence of the Charlie Kirk shooting, as well as more information comes out about this shooter. Now, under no,
Alleged
yeah,
shooter.
legend, right, and
Alleged.
and then under no pretexts or anything of that nature, political violence on any standing is completely wrong. And as two individuals, as Muhammad and myself, are now well, not now, we have entered this podcasting space, seeing that as something That is very terrifying and horrific because no, we're not out there on public campuses, and yes, we are just starting and not that big to that level, but it's still frightening to see that an individual take that level of aggression and action, just for talking about your ideas, opinions that may differ from a certain collective of individuals. I think also that the finger pointing of the shooter, Democrat, Republican, is he a leftist? Is he a conservative? Is something that dilutes the overall American spirit and how us as Americans need to come together to just put a disdain towards violence across the board. And
I
even
mean,
as people have come out and talked about, he's a Democrat or Republican, everything is coming out that he was an apolitical individual that just did not agree with Charlie Kirk's stances and just hated Charlie Kirk himself.
the
What were you gonna say,
alleged
Marlon?
shooter and the
Yeah,
alleged
the alleged.
text. I'm
Yeah.
very skeptical of this all. I don't think he's the
Oh,
guy. I
trust me,
think he's the
I got some. I was just on. Yeah, I got some things that I've read recently. I'm like, wow.
dude. The more
But
you look into it, the weirder it is.
no,
The
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 weirder
fact
it
that
is
an
too.
elderly Jewish man immediately took the blame isn't related. It has no connection nor knowledge at all of the actual shooting. The shooter himself saying he didn't know why that guy took the blame. You know what I mean? Then the fact
Right.
that he had a perfectly incriminating evidence trail that did said exactly what he did, why he did it, what he was going to do, and the fact that he was apparently a 4.0 student, was a very smart kid, but then was also able to plan out a assassination against Charlie Kirk. May he rest in peace.
Yeah. I mean,
And it just none of it adds up. Especially
no,
then you
it
get the
really
fact with the Israel influence, Netanyahu personally trying to get Kirk over to Israel more. Netanyahu trying to buy out Turning Point. Then the moment Kirk dies, Shapiro's the one hosting his show. It's dude, it's
No,
suspicious.
yes, without a doubt, it's definitely some shifting tides that aren't clear to what's really going on. But overall, it's still important for our listeners to know and
Yeah,
understand that political violence on any front, we are completely against, as well as I will always be forever against pointing at a party for doing something if it's not even allegedly out or all the information isn't out either. Now, to dive into the good stuff. So apparently, someone took the text messages of that were shared from the Discord. Well, no, just the text messages, and actually ran it through AI and said that those text messages are most likely fabricated.
yeah.
Most likely fabricated. And then, on top of speaking on the political level of violence and so forth, I actually can confirm that Trump's Department of Justice actually removed a report today that actually
About the
points
far right
to
extremism
far right. I mean, far right extremism is high in higher levels than left extremism.
by a mile.
And just looking at the level that individuals take both, like, yes, I do understand that when Charlie Kirk died, individuals were actually celebrating, and honestly, shame on them. Do I think they should lose their jobs?
No,
I don't think so, because if you're going to be for free speech, you have to be for all free speech, no matter what form that it is. You have to be acceptance of all free speech. When it comes to rights, you got to be an absolutionist. You have to have the full on right, absolute. You can't cherry pick certain situations to where you want it to fit your narrative. If you're going to be for free speech, you have to be for all free speech. So we're now seeing the Trump administration dialing that back so much, when even he's going at reporters and saying, we may be making, legislation that bars, reporters, that puts them in jail for things that they say and things of that nature. That's dangerous down the line. And the way that the public is going to perceive these things is in that fascist nature. So it's not that there's one side doing more political violence than the other. Even in June, when I think Melissa Hartman, when
was
she and
murdered
her was murdered, her and her husband murdered in her house while their children were home. Not talked about. Well, it was talked about. Nothing happened. Flags weren't lowered. I believe Trump would have lowered the flags if he was asked. But it's just that let's not forget what's happened in the past, given the gravity of this situation. This should be a situation to where we can come together collectively and say, yes, we need a standing up against violence across the board. Like this has to be a standing from all Americans on all sides of the aisle.
Yeah, and
It's only going to get worse, and I can't imagine when it comes to actually like the elections, like having thousands of individuals at the polls and things of that nature. Like only bad things can really happen if we don't come together and actually realize that we're more and we're so much better than this level of violence, and that I truly think we'll never truly get back to um, that level of civility when it was, Obama and John McCain, and someone was saying in one of the John McCain events that Obama was a terrorist and so forth, and McCain is vividly standing up for Obama. We have
yeah,
lost that level of respect, that level of care, and that level of dignity for each other if we're just across the aisle. And I think that's something that we try to bring here, in a sense that it's the level, try to bring a balanced approach on perspective while trickling in our own thoughts to it. And I hope our listeners do take that from us every time they do listen. And we truly wanted to put down any calls of violence on any nature, because it's completely wrong and it's against the American way across all boards. Everyone should be able to speak their opinion and not have to worry about being killed, prosecuted, legality, or anything of that nature, unless it does fall in defamation. But
yeah. I
that
just
is
want to.
my that's my little two cents on it to kind of really close out the episode. And like that's an important piece that I want our listeners to really leave with. Our views on the Charlie Kirk, the political violence is the main piece in all that we've talked about. And just know that we are here to give our unbiased perspectives in a way that is in an informative, balanced, and engaging platform and premise.
And I just want to add my opinion as well on this. They I do agree. All speech is free speech. Trump. I think Trump is the key figure behind the large hatred running across America right now. This all really started when he became president, when he was running, and also Hillary Clinton didn't help at all,
Yeah,
calling half the country deplorables. But Trump's
yeah,
been
that did
very
not.
aggressive with how evil the left is. So much so, Trump has said that he will be looking into locking up people for hate speech. And that alone is a scary thing to hear from the president. And he was talking about this one journalist specifically.
I think I remember watching that.
Yeah, this one journalist asked him a question. I'm forgetting the question, but it was pertaining to ongoing recent events. And the president basically said, well, we don't, it'll have to deal with people like you. We don't like people like you, people who give me a hard time and make me look bad.
Yep.
We'd see what we can do about people like you. So it's basically just saying that, we're going to see what we can to accuse you of a crime based off your speech so that we can take care of you. And that's extremely un American. And I, Charlie Kirk said a lot of hateful things about Islam, Muslims, and black folk. I mean, MJ, I'm Muslim, you're
Yeah,
black. And I've seen a lot of
I think we prefer
black.
African American. I'm joking. I'm joking.
I was just say
No, I'm
that
joking. I'm joking.
I don't think he was specifying that.
No, no, no. Go
The-
ahead. Go ahead.
but so I've seen a lot of people on those sides who are like, a bit more, no, not like somber about his passing or his death. And I understand why, because when someone spews venom your direction, once that venom is no longer being spewed, you feel bad about it. But I think that it's important to note that violence isn't an answer for people who aren't committing violence themselves. Kirk may have said some hateful things, but this is America.
Yeah, he
Some
was
of
not.
my speech is probably considered hate. Some of my speech is
Exactly.
absolutely considered hateful
He
to
was just
some of
letting
the
his
wrong
opinions be
crowds.
known, and he ultimately,
Yeah,
got
he just all he
assassinated.
said was saying his opinion. You don't deserve to be slain for saying your opinion. Now, like
The
I've gone on
ultimate
quite a
price.
few anti-Israel rants. I know people who are super pro-Zionist who would call me anti-Semite, say that I hate Jews. I don't hate Jews. I don't have a problem with Jews. I have a problem with Zionism. I
Just
have a
critical of
problem.
the Jewish state. That's all.
Yeah, I have a
What's
problem with
the
the
issue with
idea
that?
that the Jewish state needs to be a ethnically supreme Jewish state and cleanse out their neighbors, and then also discriminate against Christians and Muslims within their own borders. That's what I have a problem against. I have a problem against Jewish ethnic supremacy. I don't have a problem with Judaism. I also have a problem with Muslim supremacy. You know what I mean? Muslim supremacy kills more Muslims than anything else in the world. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? They because some Muslims think they're superior to other Muslims because of their crazy backwards ideology, which is just what Zionism is, crazy backwards ideology. And unless somebody themselves is actually partaking in violence, you shouldn't resort to violence with them.
yeah, you should
You
not.
know, Kirk was not somebody who was out there, you know, inciting calls to kill people, or, you know, they killing people themselves. So I do think that this is a sad step in the direction of what we should be doing as a country. I do hope that whatever was the source of this all is actually figured out, but I don't think that'll ever be made public,
Yeah,
because I do think that it's powerful forces at play here, and I think that Israel is a direct key in it in terms of what they want to accomplish with silencing Charlie Kirk, because he was growingly anti-Zionist. Now, consider that a conspiracy theory if you want to, but Kirk was able to say all he wanted to say about Muslims, black folk, and everything else without any problem. The moment
until
he starts criticizing Israel, he dies weeks later.
yep.
So it's
Very
just
interesting how it happens. Very,
very
very
interesting how that
interesting.
happens. And
So
the right, and like the I say the toxic right, because that's like a minority of conservatives. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like the people who spend most of their time online, and then, you know, partake in all like the white supremacist banter, the Zionist banter, like Laura
yeah,
Loomer, people like that. They and the toxic right really just, when you see how they treat the idea of free speech, it's a weapon to them. You know what I mean? To be fair, it's a weapon to the far left as well. What we saw it earlier,
yeah.
and
It is.
I think this is a great example of showing that you value the consistent beliefs, and instead of weaponizing people's demises or downfalls, or you weaponizing bad moments in history for your own advantage. I think it's a good time to be able to say, you stand with character and say, this is wrong. This is America. No one deserves to be killed for free speech. No one every kind of speech is free speech in America, and we shouldn't be weaponizing it. We shouldn't be throwing people in jail for it. We shouldn't
Yeah,
be threatening people with it. People should be allowed to say whatever they want, and they should not be able to get killed for it. That's the point of America. Say what you want. If people agree with you, they'll agree with you. If they don't, they don't. They'll let you know that. You know what I mean? And the answer to letting people know what you think of their opinion isn't to murder them.
exactly. So like there's no sense of level of violence that's ever correct or ever should be addressed to an individual that's only speaking their opinion, no matter how heinous individuals may seem it to be. We definitely want to leave our listeners with that, and you know, have some more civility to your neighbors as you go throughout these weeks and months and years, as politics picks up, and more electoral races, more in the news. Always know and understand that yes, an individual may have a different political view than you, but no, that does not mean that you have to hate them or like them. You can have a regular conversation with that individual, disagree on the same thing, and just walk, turn around and go the opposite way like nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
It's a level of polarization that needs to die down, and hopefully it really does, and hopefully, you know, not just the president but also the voters take time to understand that's not like violence is not the answer, nor is it pointing the finger at the other party. That's the answer. And last two things real quick, got to get these out. We were talking about Kash Patel, his
Oh
failure
yeah. Oh
of an
yeah.
oversight committee hearing, where he's basically was saying that there's no Epstein files, even though there are Epstein. He said there's no connection of Epstein trafficking individuals, even though there are multiple court documents that say differently, citing Trump and Epstein from, I believe, 2016, and other court documents as well. So he's basically lying under oath. And Once that got done,
And the
there were
truth's
major
also already
calls.
clearly out too. Mm.
Right. And there were multiple calls. There's now multiple calls for him to be fired, as well as um, FBI co-deputy director Dan Bongino. So the two, funny enough, that the two, podcast individuals who spouted so much about Epstein got into the Trump administration through talking about Epstein, through the proliferation of Epstein in the media, are now going to find their way out because of the Epstein files. I mean, you can't make it up. Can't make it up yourself, honestly.
Yeah,
It just goes
no,
to show you
damn.
how deep this goes, really, because they're not even willing to state that there were connections between Epstein, um, trafficking girls and so forth. He would not see that at all. And even the Republican Senator Joe Kennedy, he's
Joe
he's
Kennedy,
honestly
yeah.
he's honestly hilarious for the things that he says about Democrats. Sometimes I will say that, but even what he was saying, I was agreeing with him and what he's saying about what the soon to be former FBI
Soon
director
to
was
be
saying
former.
about all of this. It was really troubling to hear what he was saying and how much he ran on it. It's disgusting. But Mojave, have your take on that, and that we'll close that out. This might be one of our
Yeah.
longest episodes here.
Yeah, that's what we had a lot to catch up on after
Yeah,
like
but
our
we took
five,
we took
6 day break.
yeah we took a break. That was needed. That was very much needed.
It was, but I think that I'd be surprised if he keeps his job solely for the fact that I don't think he's the effective cover man that Trump administration wants him to be. I think how he was emotionally overreacting was the big deal there. I don't think his answers were the problem. I think how he was acting when he was giving the answers. I mean, he basically got into a yelling argument with Adam Schiff, Cory
And Cory
Booker.
Booker as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like him literally, you could like, the guy was insulting them, you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I'm sure Trump appreciates seeing Democrats get insulted because that's what he does. I mean, Thomas Massey, just to mention, said that when he was asked about about his opinion on the increasing political violence in America, he said, "Well, I think we can all play our part in minimizing it, and I especially think the president should tone down his rhetoric." We know that Trump is very open to the idea of speaking trash, even violently, with extreme intent if needed against Democrats. But it's all about how it's done. And, they want somebody who's going to cover the trail and cover the trail well. And Cash Patel is just looking like a fool out there.
No, he really isn't. So this has to be the last thing. So I have some more information of what's going on. This is literally the last thing because that was the first thing that popped up. So take it with a grain of salt. So apparently, Representative Ro Khan just dropped a bombshell. Democrats now have the votes to force a vote on the Epstein list. On September 23rd, the discharge petition will be entered in the record. 7 days later, a vote for the files. Two recent developments. Were made this possible. Two new Democrats are joining the caucus. James Wilkinshaw, just replacing Jerry Connolly after the special election in Virginia's 11th district, and Delita Grijalva is poised to win her late father's seat in Arizona. So we're getting closer, and maybe
Closer.
this is why they might want to get out now, because
Yeah.
this
There,
discharge petition is happening. It's
there,
happening,
there
folks.
is a few Republicans who don't plan on running in 2026.
Yep, and I don't blame them. I really don't blame them. But
The thing is, I wonder if they're gonna do like I'm done anyway. I don't care what happens. I'm gonna vote for it anyway to screw over all the other Republicans.
literally,
It's possible. I mean, people do cover their own ass when they have nothing, when they don't have anything else to lose. I mean, how's the saying go? Don't mess with a man who's got nothing
there's
to
nothing
lose.
to lose. Yep, it's
Yeah,
one
and
of
I
the most
mean,
dangerous men.
what they've got to lose is their political career. If they're already like, yeah, I'm done with this. You know what I mean? I can
Exactly.
see them going against the party.
No, exactly. So
I mean, we
I
see
know.
Fetterman doing that right now. He's totally against the Dems, and he's like, I don't know if I'm even running for reelection.
Yeah, or he might just be like, I have my time, I have my fame, I can go to, I can like he could start his own consulting firm.
That dude
That
could go to Israel and probably become
yeah,
like a
that's him.
multi-millionaire. Like he just volunteered for the IDF. You know what I mean? He'd somehow get paid like millions of dollars to like speak about American political experience. They but yeah, Fetterman's a piece
No.
of shit. I just
No,
want to
yeah.
add that
So
somebody from PA
and I actually worked on his campaign.
back when he was an actual Democrat, then he had a stroke, and now he's Republican basically. Not even a Republican. He's a GOP member. The thing is, the GOP really doesn't stand for conservative policies at all. You know what I mean?
All right, we are going to have to wrap this up. It's raining outside. I gotta get my girlfriend, unfortunately.
Oh, hey, no
Not
worries.
unfortunately,
Good
but
way to
like
end it anyway.
yeah, no, great way to end it. Look forward to the next episode. And my volunteers, thank you for listening.
God bless you all, and may peace be with you all. Good night.